Hey, Bison fans, add a little green in your wallet with the NDSU debit card from Gate City Bank. For every card ordered, Gate City Bank donates $10 to NDSU. Get your Gate City Bank Bison debit card today at gatecity.bank/Bison or instantly at any location. Gate City Bank, for a better way of life. Member FDIC. Hey, everybody, welcome to the latest edition of the Kolpack and Izzo podcast, brought to you by Gate City Bank. With the Forum's Jeff Kolpack, I'm Dom Izzo from WDAY Sports. The second round of the FCS playoffs begins Saturday. For the first time in 13 years in a full football season, the Bison will play a second-round game on the road. In fact, in the last time they played a second-round game on the road was in Bozeman, Montana, where they'll be on Saturday to take on the 6th-seeded Montana State Bobcats. There's so much that I instantly think of that day in December of 2010, of when we went out there, and we were reminiscing about this earlier this week, of just the newness of it. Even the Bison fans didn't know about the FCS playoffs. Heck, Montana State didn't really know how good, and we didn't know how good NDSU was. And I know you have,
on a national scale.
Right, you've written about this a couple of times. I point a straight line, Jeff, to everything that's happened since 2010. It was birthed on that day in Bozeman. I really believe that. I
would point to the last 15 minutes of that game. Montana State led going into the fourth quarter. I think a lot of people forget that. Led, was it 17-14? And then DJ McNorton rips off 3 touchdown runs, 19, 36, and 39 and 52 yards. And you're going, oh, wow. Okay, this is what the West Coast offense can do. This game has a lot of similarities, Dom, that game did, because Montana State back in 2010 was the 4th seed. This year they're the 6th seed. NDSU was the unranked, unseeded team. I think they might have been ranked, but they were certainly unseeded and struggled with Robert Morris in that first playoff game, down 7-6 at a halftime before waking up a little bit. And you're thinking, oh man, they struggled with Bob Morris. Yeah. This is not going to work out well out here. But I guess we underestimated the Bison in Montana in 2003 in Missoula when they were Division II with the big upset, and underestimated them again in 2010. And are we underestimating them now?
Well, that's the question that I'm sure is going to be asked between now and Saturday at 2 o'clock. The games they have lost this season, they have been susceptible to running the football. And Montana State's
right up the middle,
DNA is running the ball, Kolpack. They average 300 rushing yards per game. The tops in the country at that. And that to me is the whole story of this game. If the Bison can stop the run, they have a heck of a chance to win it. If they don't, Montana State's going to win pretty easily, I think.
Montana State leads the country in scoring at 40.5 points a game, leads FCS second in rushing offense. Second.
That's pretty good.
Those are Bison-like numbers.
Right, that's NDSU stats, right.
But the Bison aren't bad. They're 4th in rushing offense, 3rd in scoring offense.
Just the way they go about doing it is differently.
But I guess we can use stats this time of the year. There's been a whole data points of a whole season of data. Yep. This is who you are. Yep. So scoring defense, NDSU's 13th, Montana State's 23rd. I mean, by the numbers, they are pretty even.
Yes, this is about as even as a matchup. That's why this is not a second-round game. I'm going to go off on a tangent, but there's Montana State seeded. Should not have been seeded when you look at all the numbers on this. No, the Bison have them in several categories on that, and I've already spoken my piece about it. But that's why this game shouldn't be happening in this particular round, in my estimation.
And what did you have in your bracketology? Where would you have had Montana State?
I had them playing on Thanksgiving weekend. I think I had them playing into Idaho, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
So I had them, and the Bison were the 7th seed. That's where I had it for the show that we did after the win over Northern Iowa.
Wins to close the season against Northern Iowa and Southern Illinois. One a playoff team, one you knocked out of the playoffs, and with the same record as Montana State. I just don't get where the separation is there.
And I talked to Viggs about the Montana game. Yep, it was a clunker. We had to flush it. We addressed it with the guys. But unlike the past 2 years where they were preparing for 2 teams, he said we've been flat out preparing for North Dakota State for 2 weeks. because knowing obviously who the Bison were playing last week.
I do know Montana State in the Frisco game, Montana in the Brawl of the Wild gave the Bison a blueprint on how to play the Bobcats, if I remember right.
Yep.
There was a certain way that Montana attacked Montana State, whether it's just right up the middle or
so let me ask you, does that happen again? Do you think that?
Well, I sure would want to do. Yeah, well, I'm sure they study the Montana film up and down.
Well, that to me, Montana State defensively does not intimidate me. If I'm Tyler Roll, Randy Hedberg, Cam Miller, I'm looking at we are going to be able to move the football, even with the weather conditions looking like the way they are, which looks
39,
pretty decent. Maybe a chance of some snow later in the afternoon. I still think offensively, the Bison are not going to have any issues, in my estimation, of moving the ball against Montana State.
A chance of snow late in the afternoon. What does that remind you of?
It reminds me of
Eastern Washington.
Washington in 2010. That wasn't just a chance. That was a snowstorm that happened that day. But to me, it all depends on what Bison defense are we going to see? Are we going to see the one that we've seen over the last 3 weeks that's forced an inordinate amount of takeaways, or the one that we saw against South Dakota and UND and South Dakota State that did not force any turnovers in any 3 of those games?
I think Eli Mostert has to play like an All-American. Javier Darrett has to play like a veteran.
Yep.
They have to get Cody Heisman.
Dylan Hendricks has to keep playing like an all-conference player like he has.
But I'm saying up the middle here.
Yeah.
That's where it's got to start.
Yep. And that means
your linebackers.
Their middle linebackers, in terms of Kubitz and Wirtz, have to be tremendous. They have to have great games. And they have to force, in my mind, 2 turnovers. Not just one. I think they need to force 2 turnovers to win this game.
What did Grant Olson tell me this week? Their eyes have to be sharp. Talking about the Bison defense.
Yep.
They have to have sharp eyes.
And it's not just one quarterback. Both of them can run. Chambers and Tommy Mellott both are capable of getting out, and before you know it, Kolpack, they got 15 or 20 yards down the field when they got out of the pocket.
Mellott, we knew could run. Mellott's been a runner. He's been a scorer. He's been that playmaker. I didn't know Chambers was as good of a runner as he's been.
He's averaging 8 yards a carry, 638 rushing yards on the season, and 14 touchdowns.
Oh, they have 5
rushing.
guys averaging at least 8 yards a carry. At this time of the season, 5 guys.
And that's not even talking about their top
that's not
back.
Julius Davis.
Right, with Julius Davis, who fans have seen him, what he did against Sacramento State when he leapt over a defender. That guy is...
He's only at 6.9.
Yeah, this is going to be a tall task. I firmly believe that. Add into the fact that Montana State's got a 26-game home win streak.
And a bye.
Off of bye week. This is a hard challenge here. There's make no bones about it. This is no rubber stamp. The Bison are going to go in there and win by 25 points like they did in 2010.
You look at the remaining teams, Dom, and who else would you not want to play?
South Dakota State.
And Montana State.
Yep.
For the Bison as far as a matchup.
Oh, Montana probably. Montana might be a tough one for them. That's probably it.
Anybody else on the other side of the bracket?
I think they would take Villanova. They would take Furman in a heartbeat. And you know what? They would take South Dakota in a heartbeat. That's why Bison fans are getting ahead of themselves. They'll never another chance at USD. Well, there's a rather large one here. But I will say this. How many times have we done this show, podcast, radio shows, where if the Bison could get the second round game, there was a pathway to the semifinal? I believe that's the case again this year. If they can get this, I think they're in the Final Four. Whoever they play next week, I think there's a path to the semifinals here.
I think they learned a lesson against South Dakota. No question. They didn't bring the load there.
No,
they did not.
And I thought, honestly, and I said this after the loss to the Jacks, offensively, I thought they played pretty well against South Dakota State. Their special teams was atrocious, and defense made a couple of critical errors there. If they have good special teams and can force a turnover on defense, they got a heck of a chance to win this game on Saturday. I really believe that. That's the key. When you're going on the road like this, you got to have great special teams, and you got to be able to force turnovers. In a game like this, I think that's the key.
And we've seen it over and over and over again. We've seen NDSU blow out opponents, pretty good opponents, with those things, forcing turnovers. You see a Ryan Smith punt return or a Marcus Williams pick six, Bruce Anderson kickoff return or whatever.
Yes. And the intriguing part to me for fans that are, rolling their eyes and sick and tired of the Bison, same old, this is new. This is only the 4th Division I road playoff game, Jeff. That's, for me, adds a whole other level of intrigue to this. That's exciting to me.
This is you say that, and they are tied with Georgia Southern for most playoff victories. And this is only the 4th road game.
And
I guess that's why you're tied with Georgia Southern.
And that's why I think the fans in Bozeman, Montana State, are so eager for this. They've played the Bison and got curb stomped. 2018, 2019 here. The game in Frisco. They have been
got curb stomped in 2010.
Right, they got blown out, but they've wanted NDSU. Well, get them out of the dome. Let's see how good they are. We'll get them in our place. Well, we're going to find out on Saturday.
Looks like standing room tickets,
Yeah.
what I saw only.
Yep.
What'd you make of Montana State offering free tickets to the students?
You want to get people there.
I thought that was a nice move.
Yeah, if you're going to do it, why not, right? If you're going to do it for the students, I think that makes a heck of a lot of sense. And you know what? You've got a
Did they ever do that here? I think it's like $5.
No.
Sometimes.
Make a heck of a lot of sense. If they were to Bison or somehow to get a home game next week, I would do that in a heartbeat.
If they win and Sac State wins, it'd be at home, probably.
I would do that in a heartbeat to make that happen. I'm interested facing Brent Vegan, who knows this team. And I asked Vegas this yesterday when I visited with him. Like, how ironic is it you're facing a Bison team now who throws it all over the place? Because when you were offensive coordinator, all they Bison fans wanted you to do was throw the ball. And
Fire Vegan!
Right.
Throw the ball!
And he said, you know what? You got to play to your strengths. And that's a good coach answer on that. But obviously that's where NDSU, Jeff, has shown its diversity there with Nelson, Green, Mathis. They have got playmakers on the outside that can do some things there. And Cam Miller certainly can get him the football.
Raja Nelson has been phenomenal in the last month.
Yeah. Out of nowhere. It started with that Western Illinois touchdown, and the confidence has just gone like up the Rocky Mountains here forgive the pun.
It's hard to put your finger on it. So why is that?
Yeah.
Is he gotten fresher, stronger, or is he seeing things better? I think it's just an assertiveness.
A confidence deal?
Yeah. It's being a little more, I'm hitting this hole hard now. I can handle the hits. I can handle the college game. I'm feeling more like I'm feeling more the guy.
Yeah.
Give me the damn ball.
And he's gotten it the last few weeks, and he's made plays with it. Started with the Southern Illinois game, carried over to Northern Iowa, and then last week with Drake. Anytime he's getting the ball, he's making guys miss, and that's the key to me. On the defensive side, what I'm interested there, we talked about up the middle of a play like a Cole Wisniewski, a Logan Kopp, to force a turn to something there. I think they need to turn the tide of this game on Saturday.
Yeah, and you point at Cole Wisniewski. Can a safety make a big difference against a team that really doesn't throw it a whole lot?
Well, I go to Colton Hegel as the prime example of a safety against a team that runs the ball a lot. He can.
Because Colton Hegel is more of a linebacker against the Georgia Southerns of the world. He played close to the line. Great game plans NDSU had against those. Now, this isn't a triple option team, so you can't really do that.
But how often do you think they're honestly going to throw the ball here? If they have success, I mean, can you just put 8-9 guys and say, all right, we're going to try and beat us that way?
89th in the country in passing offense.
Right. That's where I'm not intimidated at all by Tommy Mellott and Sean Chambers throwing against the Bison defense.
There's no Lance McCutcheon on the outside like they had in 2021.
They had some weapons on the outside that beat South Dakota State, frankly, in that semifinal game in Bozeman in 21. I don't see that.
I'm not really seeing that.
That's where. Now, granted, might work to the Bison advantage because secondary is still where they've been susceptible at times, whether it be of Jaden Price or a Jaquise Alexander who's come on the back end. Maybe that's an advantage there that NDSU can try and take advantage of. I'm really interested. This whole game just shakes out. That's why it's a 3-point deal. That's the closest of the point spreads of anything in the second round.
South Dakota State's a 32-point favorite against Mercer.
Should be. And I think, honestly, they'll win by 45.
Yep.
But that's the benefit, and the Bison never really experienced this outside of maybe 1 year of being the 1 seed, is that you should get that level of team in the second round. You earned that by having the kind of regular season you had, and they did. And they never had that.
Yeah, name some tough second-round games, if I recall.
Well, they played the Jacks twice.
That's
12 and 14 that were barn burners there. The first game with San Diego was a struggle for a bit. 2016, they had them in the second round. Now, they've had their fair share of teams that they knew they were going to dust, like Furman came here in 2013 with the greatest Bison team ever. I mean, they dusted them. James Madison. Remember that?
That was a second round.
Yeah, 2011. That was a tough game into the fourth quarter.
19-6 or something like that.
Bison rarely have had – they had Nichols.
26-14.
Remember that? They had Nichols in 2019 they took care of. Southern Illinois was a couple years ago. Last year was Montana. Very rarely have they had the absolute walkover like the Jackrabbits are going to have on Saturday. That's just not how the bracket is unfolded. And that you should as the 1 seed, in my mind, on that. I was a couple things I wanted to hit on as well outside of the football game. We are in the heat of portal season. It is happening. The portal officially opens, quote unquote, on Monday. But there are
it's open.
Yeah, it definitely things are open for business right now. UND's had a handful of guys. The Bison have only had one. I had a bunch of people ask me on NDSU, whenever the season ends, I firmly believe it'll be double-digit guys. That's just a gut. That's no inside information, Kolpack. I think between 8 to 10 guys are probably.
And do you believe most
leave.
of those guys that aren't playing?
I would think so. Yeah. The ones that are, those are the ones that you have to brace for. Like we saw last year what happened with Dom Jones, Marquis Siegel, Courtney Eubanks, Kobe Johnson.
I think Cole Wisniewski is going to be a prime target, no doubt.
Logan Kopp I'd look at too.
Yep.
And Wisniewski's the intriguing part because he has 1 year of eligibility remaining. So that to me maybe works in NDSU's favor, right? If you only have one, if you have two, that's where like Kopp does. That's where I'd say you worry about it.
I think he's the type of guy, 6'4", 5 interceptions, second in the country in interceptions FCS. Yeah. That screams NIL money. Yeah, yep. I need a safety. He's a smart kid. He's a 4.0. He'll learn our defense in a heartbeat. I think he's the number one guy.
You keep your eye on?
I would be very paranoid about if I were the Bison coaches.
That are currently playing, you're saying.
Right.
Right. That makes a lot of sense.
That's the one I would target.
What about the quarterback? Either quarterback,
well,
frankly.
Both.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're getting dabbled in. Now, if the Gophers offer the New Hampshire guy.
Correct, which they did. New Hampshire quarterback Max Brosmer has been offered a scholarship by P.J. Fleck. Cam Miller told me in August, I'm coming back. So we know his intentions then. But
okay, Cam, here's $100,000.
Or to Cole Payton as well. Hey, Cole, you're not playing. You got 2 years of eligibility. Come start for us right now.
I know listeners, we're not kidding. The money out there is real.
Matt Rule said
what did he say?
He said between $1 and $2 million for a quarterback at NIL money in the portal. If you want a good quarterback, that's what it's going to cost you.
1 to 2.
I'm glad he said it. He said the quiet part out loud. I'm so for people that have poo-pooed it or think we're just shouting into the wind. No, there's the head football coach at Nebraska.
Offensive linemen seem to be at a premium now. Gray Zabel.
That would be the other guy I was going to talk about. That would be another one I would, if you're a Bison fan looking at things and whenever the season ends, that'd be an area of concern right there.
Boy, this portal stuff, this COVID-19 years cannot end soon enough for FCS programs because it's a big difference between 2 and 1.
Absolutely right.
Guy in a 4th year has 2 years eligibility.
Correct. And that's where, you look at it out there, like, you've got some. Like Zabel and Wisniewski both played in 2020. Those are guys that have 1 year of eligibility remaining. And now, working in the Bison favor, Zabel's younger brother is coming here next season, so that may sway it. And we just talked about the Jackrabbits. Absolutely, you look at their quarterback, there's a handful of guys there. I know it didn't hit you last year, SDSU. It's coming, and it may come in January, whenever the season ends.
I got to believe Gronowski can command $500,000. I got to believe that.
Easy. If he wins again, he's a 2-time national champ. Let's say he's the MVP, so he's a 2-time MVP.
He's from Illinois. How many Big Ten teams in that general vicinity need a quarterback?
Illinois would take one.
Iowa.
Northwestern would take one. Yep, Iowa would take one.
You don't think David Braun knows about Mark Gronowski?
Yeah, he certainly does. The University of Minnesota would take one. Yeah. Nebraska would take it. Yeah, it's not unreal or unrealistic to expect that. And that's
it's been happening.
I joke with this Kolpack. Whenever the football season ends, the actual work for us is actually really going to start to figure out who's back.
But it's happening now. Mark Gronowski.
The tampering is happening. Absolutely.
Yes. Oh God, yeah.
Yep.
He knows what he's worth right now.
How does that work? So they're talking on burner phones, or they're talking to the high school coaches
on
this.
Both are avenues.
Yeah. That's the.
I think
you cannot talk to the athlete in quotation mark.
And it wouldn't shock me if he just talked directly.
Really? You can't prove. That's the thing. How do you prove tampering? Who's gonna? No one's gonna blow the whistle on that because everybody's doing it, right?
Well, is it illegal for the head of a collective, which is not associated with the university, to contact anybody?
I don't know if they can talk to prospective athletes. I don't know on that part.
Sure about that?
No, at least I don't believe so, but what's to stop them?
I guess that's my point.
Right. That's your greater point.
It sure seems illegal. It probably is illegal. But have you heard anybody getting busted doing that lately?
No, and the amount of money being thrown about is just absurd on that. So something to keep. I mean, look at Easton Kilty, UND's standout offensive lineman.
5.
So he goes in the portal, and then, 30 seconds later, he tweets out Auburn and whoever. So don't tell me tampering's not happening. He knew exactly what he was worth.
Yeah. The Auburn coach all of a sudden didn't.
Oh,
hey, Kilty. Hey.
Get him on the phone, right?
200,000.
Come on. Stop it. That part to me is, I just laugh at that. What do we make of Tommy Schuster's decision, by the way?
Yeah, I think he reached a ceiling at UND, and it sounded maybe
I think there was a mutual
deal.
There. Yep.
Thanks for 4 years, record-setting quarterback, but I don't think if I'm the old coordinator, Danny Freund, and I'm just throwing this against a wall, but you've taken us as far as we can go.
That's the intriguing part, though, because they open up next season at Iowa State and have Montana. So is it Trey Feeney or is the redshirt freshman they really like and Jerry Kaminsky? That's a deep pool to be thrown into when you're playing Iowa State and the Grizz to open up 2024 with a new quarterback. That's why if I have a 5-year guy back, I would welcome him back just because we know what we have there.
The nice thing, though, for UND is he decided now. He didn't wait till the spring.
You're right.
Didn't wait till middle of February or whatever. Let's say he decided now.
Yep. That's the intriguing
Rumor
part.
has he never even registered for classes. So
again,
it was
people know their decisions. It's not something they just made up and thought about. They're just going to go and do it. That part to me, again, there's a calculated part of all of this, and that's the interesting part. So for those that if the season ends on Saturday, I would tell you the real season begins maybe Sunday to figure out who's going to be around and who's not, because I think there's still, we did this unofficially a few weeks ago on the podcast. We know 14 guys were honored that are moving on. That doesn't mean of the 21 holdovers that they're all coming back. That's the real crux of this here.
Monday for you and I, you have the Bison and San Jose State men's basketball, and you got the portal open.
Yep.
It's going to be one hell of a day there, buddy boy.
Busy day. Unless the Bison win, then this doesn't even matter, though, because we found out last year the portal still opens up, so there still could be guys going in that day, even if the Bison are getting ready for a playoff game on Friday or Saturday. I was asked this, so I'll throw this at you as well, because I had an email thrown at me saying, well, Dom, can't they move the opening of the portal back? The answer to that, Jeff, is no, because signing day now comes in the middle of December. You got to know who's coming to your class to account for how many scholarships you have. That's why the portal window moving is not an option. Not with signing day happening in the middle of December now.
Makes sense.
You just can't do it. That's why the coaches hiring and firing happens as early as it does, because you want to have your guy lined up so you can go recruit for it's December 20th, I believe, is signing.
Do we think Entz is a candidate anywhere?
I believe his name is out there. Yep. It would not surprise me. There are now
Boise made their opening?
4 Mountain West openings still. New Mexico's open. Boise's still open. San Diego State got filled. There was one other I'm forgetting.
How can
now.
Brent Vegan not be a candidate? He's
Correct.
Coached in the Mountain West.
Viggs, his name's got to be out there too.
75% he's gone.
Viggs?
I would put it that high.
How about Entz?
Well, the fact they haven't hired him, or they haven't made a hire yet, tells me that Brent Vegan is right in the mix.
Okay.
Matt hasn't coached in the Mountain West. I think that's a difference.
You think somebody else goes get him, though? What's the chances?
He's had offers before.
Yeah. What's the chances?
What's his record?
58-10, I think now.
Is that good?
It's all right. Couple of national championships. It's not bad on there. I'll leave you with this. This was our poll question on Hot Mic today. So we have 8 games this weekend, 8 playoff seeds. Last year, the seeds were 8-0 in this round. How many seeds lose on Saturday?
2.
I said 3.
3?
Yep.
Okay.
I look at Villanova is very susceptible. I think Idaho is in their game with SIU. You can say I'm a Valley homer, but they're playing Valley teams.
Yeah, you don't want to play it. Valley's the last conference you want to play.
Youngstown goes to Villanova. SIU goes to Idaho. I'd watch for Albany, too. That's a CAA game. It's a rematch
Albany
game.
Finished, was 12th in the preseason CAA poll.
Yeah.
12th.
Out of 15 schools. Yeah. Richmond goes to Albany. I think that's a potential there. And obviously the Bison game with Montana State is another one.
Yeah.
I think Delaware.
There's 4 or 5 good potentials.
Yeah. I think Montana's a lock to beat Delaware. We can say so long to the Blue Hens because that'll be it for them. South Dakota State as a lock to win. How about Furman as an upset? Furman against Chattanooga. That's another conference rematch game there.
Furman proved it in the last game of the year. It's no world beater. No. Losing to one-win Wofford.
I think Furman might be on upset alert there. 3 seed is South Dakota. Everybody's looked at Sac State in that one.
You know, Sac State, second trip back into the Dakotas, their defense really didn't impress me at all. I think South Dakota has a good defense. I just think Aiden Bauman.
USD's going to be tough to beat. I mentioned Idaho. 5 seed, I mentioned, is Albany. I think they're susceptible. Montana State's the 6. We know about Furman at 7 and Villanova at 8. So we have not had chaos in this round in a long time. It's coming Saturday.
Okay, you're calling.
I'm calling for chaos. I don't know who's going to win, but I think we're going to see some unseeded teams playing in the quarterfinal round next weekend.
That's a good way to leave it.
All right. Don't forget, everybody, we're going to be live in Bozeman. Coverage begins at 10 a.m. on Saturday morning. We'll be out there tomorrow, so you can look for some stuff at Inforum.com and on WDAY tomorrow night. And then the game, of course, is on ESPN Plus. ESPN Plus. Don't call me. Don't call the station.
Dizzo at WDY.com.
But the game is on ESPN Plus on Saturday afternoon at 2 o'clock between NDSU and Montana State. We'll, of course, have our pregame, postgame shows, everything you can look for at WDAY and Inforum.com to get you ready for NDSU and Montana State. For Jeff Kolpack, I'm Dom Izzo. That's the latest Kolpack and Izzo podcast brought to you by Gate City Bank.